What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my neck of the woods. My name's Deco, where I share my experience and my knowledge, hoping to lessen your learning curve along the way. So today I'm going to talk about follow-up baits. What is a follow-up bait? How to use a follow-up bait? When to use a follow-up bait? And how to catch more fish and get more bass in the boat. All right? If this is your first time visiting my channel, please subscribe to the channel. I talk about things like this. I talk about little tips and tricks, mostly hunting and mostly fishing, that you can, so my thing is lessen your learning curve. So I don't want you to make the same mistakes that I have over the past, and I want you to be better at what you do quicker. That's my goal. So follow-up baits. So what is a follow-up bait? A follow-up bait is a bait that you throw expecting a desired result, basically. And that's all baits, but a follow-up bait is a little bit different. So what is a follow-up bait? A follow-up bait is usually something that you have pre-rigged, and if you're on your boat or your kayak or even fishing off the shore, and it's something that you have pre-rigged, and it's usually a slow-moving bait. Now, one of my favorites is just a senko, wacky rigged, or a jig. Those are my favorites that I use, and because you can just toss them out there and you can let them be, and there's really not a lot of action unless you give it the action. A lot of people use drop shots also. I'm not really into drop shots myself, but I know many people, and a follow-up bait can really be anything, really. But in my opinion, it's just a slow-moving bait with not a lot of innate action that, without you giving it action, okay? All right, so when do you use a follow-up bait? And before I get started here, a follow-up bait is very, very effective. Very effective. I'm going to say it works at least 80% of the time if done correctly. And it's not hard to use, and I'm going to tell you exactly how to use it. So when to use a follow-up bait? Pretty much anytime. Anytime you can use a follow-up bait, but you need something to happen before you throw that follow-up bait. So a lot of people think it's for top water only. It's not for top water only. It's for any time that you get that bump. So you're reeling along, right? Say you're using a spinner bait or a chatter bait or even a jig, right? If I could speak today, a chatter bait or a spinner bait, something moving along, or you got a frog on top of the water, and you get that blow up, or you get that swirl, or you get a bump underneath the water. What you want to do is you want to reel that bait in as fast as you possibly can, and then grab your follow-up bait, whatever you're using, and you want to throw it right back to that same spot. Now, what happened in that spot? There's a fish there. You know that there's a fish there, and you know now that that is a catchable fish. It's not a fish just watching the lure go by. It's a fish that bumped it. It hit it. Why did it hit it? It could be that it just didn't get a good strike at it. That could be it. It could be that it's short striked it. Maybe it was moving a little too fast. It could be a territorial bass or a territorial fish that was going to hit that lure. We don't know that, but we know that that fish is actively biting, and we know that that fish is catchable. So what you're doing when you reel that in, when that bass hits that bait, and it doesn't get it, it's thinking, this is what I'm thinking anyway, I'm thinking that the bass is thinking that it injured it, and it's looking around for it, right? So you want to get that out of that water column. You want to get it out as quick as you possibly can, reel it back to your boat or your kayak or your shore or wherever you are, and then throw the follow-up bait in the exact same area. And what you can do is just let it fall. Let it fall and let it sit. You can even give it a little twitch if you want. I'm going to say 8 out of 10 times, you're going to get a follow-up hit. 8 out of 10 times. That's how effective it is. Now, it may not be a bass. It may not be the fish that you desire, but it's usually that same fish that is in that area. And so when you get that bump, you know that that is a catchable fish, and you know exactly where that fish is. I don't think that the fish hits it and then swims away. I think it hits it, doesn't realize that it realizes that it didn't get the fish or get the bait or whatever it was going after, and then it waits and looks around for it. By you dropping that thing, it's just convenience for that fish. Now, it may not be, the fish may not think, oh, that's the same bait that I hit, but I'm still hungry and I'm still going to hit something, and that's very convenient. Bass are fat and lazy, and they're opportunists. They're out for the easiest meal that they could possibly find. And if they're actively feeding, if they hit a bump, they bump your bait, or they blasted a topwater bait or whatnot, they're actively feeding. or actively going after a bait, whether it was a reaction strike or it was actually hungry, it still has that feeling of hunger or aggression, so to speak. And when you throw that bait there, you're going to get a hit right off the bat. It's always on the fall. It's always on the fall when it's coming down. That's the gist of a follow-up bait. It is very, very effective, and you know that those are catchable fish. You know, we're out as fishermen, we're always looking for fish, and it surprises me how many times that people get like, and I've done it in the past, don't get me wrong, and this is how I've learned, is, you know, sometimes you'll get a, you say you're fishing topwater, right? You're fishing topwater, and you're burning in a frog or whatever you're doing, right? Or a spook or whatnot, and something blows up at it. A lot of times you reel that in and you throw that same bait out there. You know, and you may not get that same blow up or that same thing on top water. So the follow-up bait is very, very effective. If you throw the follow-up bait can also give you good information, and it will change the bite. It will change maybe what the fish is going after. So this happens in top water. And this happens in spinner baits and subsurface baits. It really happens everywhere. So say you're fishing the banks, right? You're throwing something at the banks, right? But you're only getting hits maybe 10 feet out from the bank, right? And you're getting something snap at your top water right there, and then you throw your follow-up bait and you catch a fish, right? That tells you that that's where the fish are. The fish are 5 feet, 6 feet, 10 feet off the bank, wherever you're getting those hits over and over. So abandon your top water, or abandon your spinner bait, or abandon your chatter bait, or whatever it is that you're doing, and you're just getting these short strikes, and just throw that follow-up bait. Find something slow moving, sinking. Maybe there's a rock or a structure or a drop-off or something outside of that bank that those fish are just staged right there. And every time you pull that top water over, they snap at it, but they're really not committing. So when you throw that follow-up bait and you get something to commit, don't go back to the top water. Don't go back to the spinner. Don't go back to the chatterbait. Stick with the follow-up bait, whatever it is, that's slow-moving, sometimes weightless, and use that. And that means you have found the fish. I've seen so many people so many times that keep using that top water because they think that that's the only reason, that's the only way they're going to get bites. They think the top water bite is on. When you can just throw something slow moving in that same area where you're just getting those blow ups over and over and over and not catching fish. Just dangle it right in front of them. You know, and the good thing about a follow-up bait is it's going to fall all the way through the water column. Then you'll be able to find those fish. Hopefully that's helpful to you. That's what I get on follow-up baits. Use them. If you're not using them, use them. It's highly effective, and you're going to catch more fish, and you're going to put more fish in the boat. You're going to know where that fish is, or know where more fish are. All right? Please sub the channel. I'll talk to you guys later. Be well.